we are fortunate enough now to be welcoming somebody who is perhaps the state party's biggest geek when it comes to elections in Connecticut, but he's also running for the Wyndham Taxing District Board. Now, he's a Willimantic resident since 1983. He served previously in several offices, including regional election monitor. He tracks the candidates in Connecticut, and I want to welcome you right with us today, Doug Lary. Hello.
Hi, Doug.
How's the campaign?
Thank you, Cam.
How's the election looking so far?
Well, it was wet this morning and cool this evening. There's confusion at this moment. The polls closed at 8. We've got some photographs of the tape. We have some people meeting at the pub and other people picking up signs. There's chaos going on. We have our first leading indicator of how things are going, and we're missing the other 9. So it's at that moment in the campaign where we don't know if we're supposed to hug or cry or, hide. But we think it's going to go well. And thanks for introducing me as Connecticut's voting data geek. Mike and I have worked together for a while, and I haven't personally met Fred, but I'm really familiar with Portland, Maine, and bravo, that was a great report on how Portland, Maine's going. My family comes from Scarborough, Maine, so I've spent a lot of time in his space. And I even went to a campaign school there with GPUS, sponsored a campaign school in Portland, and that was an excellent opportunity. So I'm from Wyndham, Connecticut, in the city portion of that town called Willimantic. Connecticut basically has 2 halves. There's the rich half that thinks it's in New York, and then there's the poor half that thinks it's, like nowhere. And I'm in that half. So if you put your finger on the right-hand side of Connecticut, you're right on top of me here. This year, Wyndham has 9 candidates on the ballot. So if I described a bit of mayhem going on out there in my community at this moment, picking up signs and looking at tapes at 3 polling sites in 4 districts, there's a lot going on. We have 2 very tight races.
Okay. But could you tell us what a taxing district is and what that actually means and how big it is?
Yeah, sure. A taxing district is been used here in my town for 40 years so that the poor, non-citizen, non-adult age, poor people of color can pay higher taxes than their white neighbors nearby who have 2-acre lots and pay 25% less in taxes. So, this is a classic. We ask the poor to pay for their own police, and then we encourage the police to be an armed guard. And then the people in the houses that feel they need so much protection aren't paying for that. But when they come in here to work or drive their cars into town or have their sons and daughters come to school here in town, the poor people in town are paying for the police that guard their kids.
So is it kind of like a city council?
It is similar. We handle 2 main budgets, $11 million, police and professional fire. They're both rather active in their own ways. The town council handles a larger budget of about $30,000. And that's leaf and snow and roads and all that good stuff. And then there's the Board of Education with a good $60 million or so. So, I'm working the tail end of the dog, fire and police in a subset of town.
Okay. And how many people serve on the board with you or would?
Well, this board of directors for the taxing district will have 6 people on it. It's a fairly new instrument. It used to be part of town council, and we cut it off separately for, local political reasons. I've formerly served on Board of Finance, a more traditional figure out the mill rate and send it to the voters and see if they're willing to pay that much. But I was interested in this role because it focused on 2 of the costs you can control the most. You can decide how fancy a fire department you want at some risk, and you can decide on how fancy a police department you want at some risk. And that risk reward benefit thing with money is one of my skill sets.
So did you want to tell us about 9 other candidates running before I interrupted?
Sure.
Take it away.
Um, as Fred said, it's important to serve. We have only 36 greens in town. A third of them are on the ballot, so to speak, and another third are in commissions. It's a pretty high bar to become a green in this town because the expectation is you're not just going to join, you're going to do something. So we're on the Energy Commission, we're on the Ethics Commission, we're on the Charter Revision Commission. My wife's been on planning and zoning for 20 plus years. So that's the expectation if you're going to get involved here. And so we have candidates who have been active. Tonight, 2 incumbents for town council. We already have 2 seats. We're trying to hold on to those 2 seats. They're in very tight races. This part of the state is going more and more purple by the hour, and it's going to be tough. But we also had 2 newcomers. One, I'm proud to say, is a professor at the local university. Her specialty is ecology. So she's got a PhD in greenness. It's really amazing. This smart lady came into the party. She just got referred by a friend. And it turns out this is her stuff. Grew up on a farm, knows dirt and water. Really amazing stuff. So we're glad to be expanding in that sort of way. And so we got some assistance from the coordinated campaign committee this year with a polite grant for our slate. I think we were probably the first slate to apply. But we've found that if you run for a lot of small offices, you and your friends have some mutual support. And you can do things that one person running for a fancy office all by themselves would have trouble doing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Doug, could you, I think for most people serving on any sort of tax, anything would be pretty daunting for them, let alone something in charge of like allocating budgets for fire departments and police departments. What made you decide to run for that office as opposed to a mayor or something else?
Well, I'm a numbers geek.
Ah.
I'm better at numbers than people. So, handling the babies and, hugging people in the large crowds isn't really my strength. I'm much more, you have a 120-page annual report? Let me try to find page 119 and see what that footnote says. I'm that kind of guy. And so if you give me a 120-page report from the town, I'm likely to turn it into a multi-tab spreadsheet and analyze it for the last 10 years back. That's what I do in my spare time. So I'm that kind of guy. And for Connecticut's Greens, I'm one of 3 or 4 large data analysts. I can take the state data for 2.5 million people and figure out who votes and how to reach them. And do we want to talk to them or do we want to leave them alone and hope they sleep through the day? So I'm sort of the targeted voter guy.
Gotcha. I know we haven't gotten any results out of your race yet, and hopefully, as they come in tonight, Mike will be getting those numbers, and when we get fresh information, we'll like break in and give updates on things as we get it. But I know right now, as you mentioned, there's 6 people running. How for 4 seats, correct?
No, actually, better than that. We have 9 Greens running for 12 offices. We expect to win somewhere between 6 and 8 of those seats. It's those last 2 that matter. They're the town council seats. They're going to be tough races. We have an interesting race on the ballot in town this year. 2 Greens are running for the same single seat. They're on 2 different party lines. One lady with an education major wanted to run for a Board of Ed 2-year slot to fill a hole. and another Green also wanted to run. And well, he got the endorsement from another party. And so tonight we have a green on green race in Wyndham, Connecticut, where the winner will be a Green. We just don't know which one yet.
What's the other party? What's on the ballot, actually?
Well, this is a Board of Education to fill a vacancy in a town full of Democrats. So they'll control the Board of Ed, win or lose. However, it's a matter of who provides the other opinions and who seconds the opinions or offerings of the other opinions. So in a 6 out of 9 Board of Ed, the Democrats will dominate. The question is, who's seconding whose second thoughts? And so the Greens and a party called, sorry for the other film there, the Bottom Line, are sort of the odd parties in this town. We have 5 active political parties. The Bottom Line will take almost anybody and almost any policy as long as you're willing to sort of like actually serve. And they've done very well with that over the last 15 years. In fact, that's part of how the Greens became heavy in Wyndham was, well, this party that was organizing strong candidates ran a few of us, myself included. And then over time, you know, these slightly more conservative, slightly older than I guys, you know, we sort of cut them loose and they're doing their own thing still. But the Greens are now a significant player in this town. So we expect to win 6 to 8 seats tonight, but the 2 I'm unsure of are the 2 we need.
Well, that would be great.